When I moved to the quiet suburb of Pine Ridge, the neighborhood was a picturesque tableau of modern homes, well-kept lawns, and friendly faces. And the best part, it was affordable, practically a steal with the current housing prices. My house was on the corner of the road, sleek and contemporary design with large windows that let in the sun's generous warmth. However, something seemed a bit off about the place. The residents were friendly during the day, but once it got dark, it was like everyone just vanished inside their homes, not a soul in sight. They also behaved oddly, always hurriedly skirting past my house and the one directly across from mine, avoiding eye contact, and never passing directly in front, as if the very ground there unnerved them. When I tried to strike up conversations about the previous occupants of my home, responses were vague, and the subject swiftly changed. The house across from mine had been empty when I arrived, but the young guy named Alex moved in about 2 weeks later. He was a pretty nice and polite guy, though stayed a bit aloof. We'd chat occasionally, curiosity mixed with a bit of neighborly concern led me to invite Alex over for dinner one evening. He hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. As the evening progressed, Alex seemed to relax, and our conversation deepened. He mentioned almost offhandedly how he had taken the house because it was inexplicably cheap, since he was laid off and was hoping to find some work around the neighborhood to start his life, but since moving in, he hadn't slept well. "It's like the house doesn't want me there," he said half-jokingly. I laughed, but his face remained serious. Intrigued, I pressed him for details. He shared that every night since he had moved in, the lights in his house flickered sometimes. The TV would turn on by itself exactly at midnight, displaying nothing but static. Objects would often be at places different from where he left them. But the most disturbing part, he confessed in a lowered voice, was the sound of whispers that seemed to echo at night, whispers in the language he couldn't understand. As a rational person, I suggested maybe the electrical wiring was faulty, and the acoustics of the house carried the whispers from the TV static. He nodded, but his eyes betrayed his skepticism. A week after our dinner, I went to speak with Alex, only to find a "for sale" sign planted in his yard. The house was completely empty, with no sign of moving vans or goodbyes. When I asked a neighboring couple, they mentioned Alex had been transferred suddenly due to work obligations. They don't know he told me he was laid off, I thought, a chill running through me. I hurried home, lost in thoughts. My own home began to feel oppressive, and a feeling of dread crept within me. I had to take some pills just to relieve the anxiety and catch some sleep. I woke up thinking it might just be a misunderstanding on my part, and maybe Alex did get a new job somewhere. He probably moved late at night and didn't think it right to disturb me. Yeah, that explains it, I thought. However, when I reached the familiar spot in the living room for my car keys, they were gone. Frantically, I searched every possible place they could be, under cushions, on shelves, even in the fridge in case I had absent-mindedly set them down there. Nothing. It wasn't until I checked the kitchen drawers that I found them buried under a stack of old receipts. Relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a sinking feeling gnawing at me. How did they get there? Alex's words echoed in my mind. Luckily, I had a smart home system in place. I decided to carefully review the footage from last night. I sat down at the monitor. As I scrolled through the recordings around midnight, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. In the footage of my living room, exactly at midnight, the TV flicked onto static, just as Alex had described. The realization that whatever was happening in Alex's house was now affecting mine sent a shiver down my spine. That was it. I couldn't stay another night, not with things becoming this clear. Packing was a nerve-wracking blur. I felt like I was racing against the clock. I did one last sweep of the house to ensure I hadn't left anything vital. As I turned the key in the lock for the last time, I swear I saw a shadow move past the living room window. I didn't wait around to see more. I got in my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, the eerie quiet of Pine Ridge looked peaceful, almost mocking. A part of me felt like I was running away from nothing more than faulty electrical connections. But another part felt relief as the distance grew. I wondered what had I really experienced. But I kept driving. The road ahead was clear, and I was headed anywhere but back there.